Hello everybody and welcome back to the Stacey US YouTube channel. I am your host Ben and I'm joined today by Steve previewing the Leyton Orient game away at Brisbane Road on Saturday. Steve, how you doing, mate? You keeping well?
All good, Ben. Thanks for having me on the show. Looking forward to talking to you. I'm not quite sure this is the best time to be playing Lincoln, given current form, but I think we'll give it our best shot.
No, absolutely. We were just saying off air. At the minute, it's borderline scary. This kind of start doesn't happen to us as Lincoln City, and it doesn't. There's no real fear that we might be slowing down anytime soon, which, depending on which side of the fence you're on Saturday, is either a good thing or a slightly terrifying thing, I'd imagine. Let's sort of get into Orient. Obviously, beaten playoff finalists last season. What were the expectations going into this year? I mean, obviously, we'll touch on things like the departures and all that kind of stuff, but was there hope for maybe a repeat of last season, or was there a sort of general feel of, well, we know we've lost a few players, so are we just gonna have to rebuild and maybe what's the word? Just sort of consolidate. That's the one. Consolidate this season and then go again next year. How did you feel coming into the season?
I think we were fairly optimistic, looking kind of the management who we kept. So Richie Wellens remained at the club, which was a big deal for us, and I think we was all excited to kind of go again. We knew it'd be difficult because there's some big teams in League One, but I think last season, considering that was only our second season back in League One after getting out of League Two, I think we all felt fairly optimistic. I felt that it'd be tough to try and replicate what had happened, but then again, there's always going to be those one or two teams who are able to replicate that or be up there. So quiet optimism. I think I said I would take top 10 this season. There's been a lot of turn around, a lot of changeover at the club. Again, some big teams from the Championship have come down, which makes it even harder. So you're looking at it going, maybe if we put together a run, I think since we've been back in League One, the 2 seasons we've seen slow starts, really slow starts, like relegation form. And then we hit a trigger point in November where we hit this point and then we're just all guns blazing and we have an amazing second half to the season. So I was hoping we might be able to replicate that. And at the start, we kind of defied a bit of expectation. We had a few bad results, but a few really good results. And you're thinking, actually, if we do what we normally do and kick on in the second half of the season from the points tally we might get in the first half, we could really challenge. But I think I was slightly optimistic. I think my co-host on the podcast thought we might be able to give it more of a shot. And at the moment, it's not really kind of turned out that way, Ben.
I mean, yeah, I think there was probably reason for that optimism going into it. Obviously, like I say, there was that trajectory after around November last season. It feels, from the outside looking in, it maybe feels a little bit different this year, given just how many players have gone from that side that got you to the playoff final. Is there anybody in particular that's a big miss for you there, or is it just kind of the sum of everybody all of a sudden just going, oh, hang on, yeah, we're missing quite a few?
I think it's a mixture of both, actually. I think we had some great individuals, but I think together collectively, when you get that 11 who play for you week in, week out, and you're like, this 11 are just brilliant. For whatever reason, they just gel on the pitch. And we lost Stephen Galbraith, who's now at Swansea and getting rave reviews. We lost him. I think he's been a big miss to us. He could get us up the pitch so quickly. So we've lost him. We've lost, I think, someone who might have gone under the radar, Jordan Brown, who was like a defensive midfielder. Didn't score you many goals, but really done the ugly stuff really well. And he ended up at Blackpool. And I think he's one of those players who at the time you just like, oh, okay, well, good luck to him. I don't think we're missing that much, but I think you can really see the Orient struggle without Jordan Brown winning the ball back or being where he should be. Not a flair player by any means, and not one who will get the headlines, but I think we've really missed him since he's gone to Blackpool. Jamie Donnelly in the number 10 role on loan from Tottenham, who's now at Stoke. I think we've missed Jack Curry, who we had left back on from Oxford United, who now is Oxford United's first choice left back, which is no surprise to us, was great last season. And above all that, Charlie Kelman up top in the number 9, who second half of the season especially bagged goals for fun for us. We've missed a lot, and I think collectively as well, all those players together have been missed as well. To add to that, who I've only just remembered, Josh Keeley in goal, who's done amazing for us, who's now Luton's number 1 after getting a big move, or big money move for League One, to Luton. And Dan Adji, who's now playing in the Turkish Premier League, who on the right-hand side of the attack really drove us up the pitch really quickly. So a lot of turnover, a lot of big players gone. But at the same time, we have had a lot of players with decent reputations in. But I think, a combination of individuals and that togetherness, and those players who really kind of struck up a real early season bond, just hasn't quite replicated itself this season on the pitch yet for us.
Okay, I mean, you say it's you had somebody that was scoring for fun, in the back half of the season last year. It almost feels, and this again, sort of as an outsider looking in, it almost feels that you guys are doing the same at the minute. I mean, I think we looked at the goal scoring table the other day. I think you've scored the 3rd most goals in the division as of yet. It just seems to be maybe a bit of defensive frailty that's creeping in, and I think it's if I remember right, I think it's the most goals conceded in the division so far this season. So how are you guys setting up at the moment? Obviously, we've seen Richie Wellens teams before, and it's kind of likes to try and control the possession a little bit and play out when he can. Is that the same again this season? And how is it that you guys are managing to score this many goals this early on in the season, yet still find yourself down in 16th?
Because we generally concede more goals than we score.
Yeah,
right. So, classic example of that. We went away to Cardiff about 3 weekends ago, and we gave Cardiff a game, but we scored 3 at the Cardiff Stadium, but they scored 4. And so you can't keep conceding or stripping the amount of goals that we've been conceding. Now up top it's not been too bad. When I was actually saying we miss Kelman, we do miss Kelman in terms of him winning the ball back. But we recruited in the summer Aaron Connolly, who can play as a 9 or 10. We got him on a free. He was at Millwall last season, and Sunderland before that, and Hull before that, and came through the youth at Brighton. He's been great. At the moment, he's playing in the number 10 role. And we signed Don Ballard on transfer deadline day, which was, for me, I think at the time was a bit of a risk. Quite young, inexperienced, a few loan spells in League One never really kind of took off for him. And we signed him for a fairly decent fee for Orient. And he's played, I think it's 8 games in League One and scored 6 goals. So he's hit the ground running. It looks really good from a number 9 perspective, although 3 of those goals were a hat-trick against Doncaster Rovers in our last home game, and we absolutely obliterated them. But generally, the defence just aren't what they were last season. I think you mentioned the Richie Wellens style of play. Yeah, that hasn't really changed. We keep the ball, we pass it around. If we can't go forward, we'll go sideways. If we can't go sideways, we'll go backwards. And I think a lot of the criticism this season from the fans has been, well, we've got all this possession, but we're not doing anything with it. It's just literally centre-back to centre-back to centre-back to left-back to centre-back. Nothing really happens. And I think Richie was quite scathing after the most recent defeat to Rotherham. He says at the moment our centre backs just aren't good enough. So we started the season playing in a normal Orient formation under Richie, which is a 4-2-3-1 in effect. And in the last 3 or 4 weeks, he's tied up at the back. So it's now a 5-3-2, so to speak, or a 3-5-2 when you're kind of pushing up from out of the back. But the centre backs who were so reliable last season in terms of Omar Beckles and Dan Happy, I guess in particular, who were man mountains last season. And when they weren't in the team, we had Jack Simpson or Brandon Cooper or Reg, who's currently injured. Those 5 last season were impeccable. And we sold Brandon Cooper to Salford on deadline day. So we had 4 of those centre-backs. Reg has picked up an injury. But for whatever reason, Beckles, Happy and Simpson just haven't been those same defenders, especially Beckles, who as a 32-year-old captain leader last season was absolutely insane. And this season, it just hasn't happened for us. At the back, we've got a new keeper, Tommy Simkin, again on loan from Stoke. He was at Walsall last season, had a great season at Walsall. He's made a few mistakes, and actually he got dropped or didn't get his place back in the team when he returned from international duty. So we've currently got Killian Cahill in goal, who's done quite well for us, to be fair, so far. But the defence just haven't really been able to be consistent at the back. Like we said, you go to Cardiff, you score 3, but you concede 4. Stevenage at home defeat a couple of weeks ago, we scored 2, conceded 3. And it's been a bit ropey. I mean, the last 2 games, if you look at them in isolation, Doncaster at home, 4-0 win, really good, probably best performance of the season, bar none. And then last week's away defeat at Rotherham, 1-0. Only conceding 1 in those 2 games is a vast improvement of where we're at. But then at the same point last weekend, by all accounts, we didn't really create much up front at all. And when we did, we were really wasteful. So a bit of a change of fortunes last weekend from what we've normally seen. But yeah, at the moment, it's just clinical. It might sound ridiculous for the team who scored the 3rd amount of goals in League One, but the clinicalness in both boxes has been slightly lacking. Whereas last season, bodies on the line, clean sheets for fun, getting goals left, right, and centre. So it's just key moments in games at the moment. Football's a game that can be decided by moments, and I think most of those moments haven't gone our way for lack of concentration or lack of clinicalness, or for whatever reason. We just find ourselves kind of just slightly off it.
You know what? I think when you were talking there, I was just sat there going, this sounds an awful lot like us last season towards the, that point where fine margins, little moments and lapses in concentration. I think last season we were really prone to individual errors, and it's one of those things you can't really coach it out as a tactic. If someone makes a mistake, someone makes a mistake, and it just felt, yeah, from what you've said there, it almost feels like that was where we were this time last season. So, I mean, obviously, yeah, we've spoken about the outgoings. How was the transfer window for you? Because obviously, you say that the team looked like it was essentially decimated from that side that got to the playoff final. The incomings that you've had, how quickly have the guys settled? How well are they look? How good are they looking? Obviously, you've mentioned Simkin there as a goalkeeper, potentially a little bit wobbly and has lost his place at the moment. Do you think that might be a confidence thing, and when he's ready to come back, he'll sort of come straight back into the 11? Or how have the signings looked for you in general?
Signings have been fairly decent for the most part. Like I said, Connolly and Ballard have settled in well. We re-signed Josh Karoma, which is a big signing for Leyton Orient, released by Huddersfield Town. I think he had a few League One bigger clubs than Leyton Orient, to be fair, sniffing around him. We signed him back. He started the season really well, but he seems to have lost focus, and he's on the bench now at the moment, which you wouldn't have thought would be possible at the start of the season. Like I said, we lost Jordan Brown. Darren Prattley retired, so I guess we needed a new kind of spine in midfield. We got that with Idris El Mazouni, who we know very well, Orient. He was with us twice on loan from Ipswich. He got moved to Oxford. That didn't work out for him, so we signed him on a perm deal. So the signing of Idris was a really good one. Really optimistic about that. He's been pretty decent so far, but it's kind of the players next to him in the middle. We signed Tyreek Backinson from Wickham, who the club had been after for 2 years. Big expectations. He's kind of not really done so well so far. We signed Michael Craig, right back on loan from Reading. He's pretty much been injured for the entire season. I think when Reading fans realised he was coming to us, they really kind of didn't want him to go. So we were really excited about that one, and we haven't really seen anything from him yet, unfortunately, due to his injury. Left back is on loan from Palace, Teo Adamarola, who I think he's really good, but he's more of an attacking defender, if that makes sense. His defensive play leaves a lot to be desired, but when he takes you up top, you're thinking, God, this guy's good. But seems to be a bit of a weakness within the defence. So a lot of turnaround, 15 players in, mentioned Killian Cahill and Tommy Simkin in goal. What Richie will do is, if someone deserves a chance, he'll give them that chance. And now it's not Simkin's place back on Saturday again and keep his place. But we got good competition for places. It just seems that these players are taking a bit more of a while to gel than what we normally would have seen. But I think on the flip side of that, we've got a few less loans in this season, a few more perm deals, and maybe looking at longer term view. A lot of these players have come on 3-year deals, so maybe this is a season where they need that season, maybe to gel, to find the rhythm, to find those key partnerships. Maybe this is a season of consolidation where we learn how to go again, we rebuild, and maybe next season is the one to push on. I mean, table for me generally doesn't lie. You deserve to be where you are, really. And I think as we sit here tonight recording in 15th place, that probably is where we deserve to be. See some great performances. The Doncaster game was fantastic. Wigan at home early in the season when we won 2-0 was brilliant. Then on the other side of that, we've seen some pretty poor performances. Like Rotherham away last weekend was 1-0. And I think the most scary part of that is we just looked a bit devoid of anything up top defensively. And it just was a bit, when you leave the ground and you're a bit like, meh, like nothing really happened. And then you talk about it in a podcast and within 5 minutes, you've kind of covered the entire game. You're like, is that what really happened? It was last season, we had some splendid games, lots of drama. This season just hasn't really kind of found its rhythm. But I mean, these players that we signed, for the most part, all experienced League One players, all on longer term contracts. Richie has kind of mentioned the importance of having a longer term plan at the club. You can't keep getting 5 players in a loan and using everyone else in your match day, because from there you're never going to be able to do anything. So completely get why the club is kind of taking this approach. But yeah, some of these players have probably taken a lot longer to settle in than what we would have liked them to have done.
Fair enough. I mean, again, there's so many parallels there from, I think last season we maybe saw it as a bit of a consolidation after coming so close the previous year. And, we ended up finishing 11th, but we'd signed some players on longer term deals. We did the same over the summer. It's weird sometimes when you see those parallels between clubs, and you just think, oh, okay, maybe there's more to League One than just, coming in and spending all of the money like Birmingham and Wrexham did. So, right, let's look ahead to Saturday then. Obviously, as we mentioned, I think the form has been pretty much a mirror image. If you look at the form table at the moment, we've got 4 wins out of 5. You've got 1 win out of 5. Going into it, it's one of those where you look at it and on paper you think, oh, this should be a Lincoln City win, but we know that that's not how it always happens. And I think given the style of football and given the fact that you guys are almost scoring for fun at the moment, I think this maybe feels like a banker if you're a betting man to go for both teams to score. But have you seen much of Lincoln so far this season? And have you, if you have, what have you thought of what you've seen?
I've seen the bits and pieces here and there. So most of my knowledge comes from like the EFL show. But it seems like you battle well. It seems like you always are able, for the most part, to get a good result here or there. I won't say I'm too surprised to see Lincoln up there. Actually, I think to your club's credit, I think they stuck with the manager when maybe lesser chairman probably last season might have gone, do you know what, this isn't really working. So I think kudos to you. And I think you've really kind of, from the outside looking in, reap the benefits of players like James Collins. I think we were linked with James Collins, and when you signed him, I thought that guy scores goals for fun, really, at League One level. And I think had we not been doing so well, I think we may have kind of gone in there and sniffed around him. So I think, from what I know, some good results. Good win for you on Saturday as well. I think, we played Stevenage 2 home games ago and they scored 3 goals against us. So they're a hard team to beat. So I think we know it's going to be a difficult game. I think confidence is going to be high at Lincoln. I think what might play into our hands is your style of play might suit us more. From what I can tell, the teams who normally are up there play a more attractive style of football. And that's when you normally see a better performance against Leyton. I think we struggle with the more teams who are more physical against us and keep pumping it long. I don't kind of get that impression from Lincoln, which might make it a bit more of a close-knit game than maybe what most people might realise. I think, remember going back to last season's game at Brisbane Road, it was a 5-goal thriller where it was 3-2 in the end, and I think we nicked the last-minute goal. Again, you spoke about key moments last season, maybe not going your way. Those were the moments that kind of went our way. But I'm looking forward to it. I think Lincoln City, I must mention, Lincoln City are a proper club, so there's a lot of respect for Lincoln City from Leyton Orient. Obviously, we had the tragedy of Derek Reynolds 2 years ago in our home game, and we haven't forgotten about that. And Lincoln done a sterling job with Derek and the respect they showed him at your ground. So a lot of mutual respect there. I think it's going to be a tight game. I think if you look at on the coupons, and I think the kind of generic football fan might look at that and go, Lincoln probably take this, but I think in reality it's going to be quite a close game. It won't surprise me, like you said, both teams scoring and getting on the score sheet. It's just who scores more goals at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had a discussion about it on the podcast last night when we recorded, and we kind of had a similar view. It's one of those games where it promises to be more of a spectacle, shall we say, than the games that we've had so far this season against like the likes of Stevenage and which wasn't a footballing classic, let's be honest. But we are a team that like to press high against teams that like to play play it around at the back rather. So yeah, it almost feels like we may, or you guys may play into our hands, and then you're saying that we might play into your hands. So I'm definitely interested to see how it all pans out on Saturday. What we normally do is we will push you for a prediction. Yeah, we'll push you for a prediction, and we'll see what your thoughts are on the scoreline.
All right, I'm going to. I think both teams will score, like I said. I think I'm going to go for a coupon busting 2-1 win for Orient, which is very rare for me. I don't normally go for an Orient win. Try to get tradition here and actually back my team. It probably won't happen.
Well, you've got to, haven't you? You've got to, and you're promoting the team, you're promoting the pod. You've got to do it. It's absolutely got to be done. I was a little bit bold with my prediction on the podcast. I think I was probably in a bit of a good mood. So on the podcast, I said 3-1 Lincoln. I think I'm going to stick with it because otherwise I'll look like I've shied away from criticism. So I will stick with that. I think we've had 2 games where we've not been particularly on fire in front of goal. We've wasted quite a few chances. It's not for the lack of creating chances. We've been getting into good spots, and it's just been slightly wayward finishing that's let us down. The Exeter game in particular was just a nightmare. I think we had 53 touches in the box in that game, and we couldn't put one in the back of the net. So hopefully we'll have a similar amount of touches in the box, but we'll actually score on Saturday more than once, hopefully. So I'm going to stick with my 3-1. Whether that means I will get pelters or not, I don't know, but we shall see. But what we like to do before we hand the floor over to you, mate, is we will ask you a few quick fire questions around Leyton Orient, and then we will wrap up. So the first one is the best thing about supporting Leyton Orient.
The unpredictability.
I like that. I like that a lot.
You just never know what you're going to get, Ben, at Orient. Just no idea what's coming next.
What is the worst thing about supporting Leyton Orient? And you can't say the unpredictability.
Oh, I was just...
I'll let you have it. Go
on. Going to Wembley.
Okay.
Horrible. Been there 3 times with Orient, 3 defeats. Been to Cardiff in the player final, defeat. Actually, 4 times with Orient, 4 defeats. Never ever happens. And maybe I'd say being so close to West Ham.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, we've also had 2 trips to Cardiff and a trip to Wembley, and we've yet to taste victory there. So in a playoff, we obviously won the checker trade. So we feel your pain on that one.
We haven't even done that, Ben. We haven't even done that. We got to the final of the FA Trophy when we won the National League, and we lost 1-0 to AFC Fylde. So we haven't even had the glory day at Wembley.
You see, we managed to get to Wembley and have our first ever Wembley appearance end with a win, which was, I said, right, if we never make it here again, that's fine. And then we did, and we got beat by Blackpool. I was gutted. Right, your favourite away day, whether that's in history or you one that you always look forward to?
In history, I felt like this a couple of weeks ago. My favourite away day is actually Stockport. I really enjoyed Stockport. Great ground, great fans, great pub, great food, great result last time I was there. So I might go against the grain, but Stockport.
Fair enough. No, it's always interesting. Like when you get one that you wouldn't expect, you sort of go, oh, okay, that's interesting. I don't think I've been to Stockport, but I'll add that one to the list, I think. Right, next one. One word that comes to your mind when you hear the words Lincoln City.
The Imps. That was 2 words.
That's all right. That'll do.
Or do you know what? Danny Cowley. Every time I hear Lincoln City, it just takes me back to the Cowleys.
Yeah, it's that era. That kind of kick-started everything for us, and it's to go from where we were to where we are is ridiculous, really. And there's a lot of love for for Dan and Nick down in down in Lincoln still. Right, and then the final one, which usually gets a bit of pondering from people, the one team that you secretly hate. So not an obvious rival. When we had an Exeter fan on, we said you can't have Plymouth. So not an obvious rival, but a team that you secretly hate.
Has it got to be in the same division, or can it be any team?
No, it doesn't have to be in the same division.
Probably Peterborough.
Okay. I mean, they won't be in the same division for much longer if it carries on.
In the back of your mind, just Peterborough. Or probably, do you know what? Probably more recently, Stevenage. For some reason, Stevenage really do not like Rishi Wellens and do not like Orient. I think it stems from a couple of years ago where we kind of were at the same kind of tier for a while and battled it out. I'm going to change that. I don't mind Peterborough. It's Stevenage. They just do not like Orient, and we just do not like them. No idea why.
No,
so Stevenage, yeah.
That's fair enough. I mean, you would get Peterborough from a few Lincoln fans, so yeah, we'll let you off either way on that. So that's all good. Right, well, look, mate, thank you ever so much for coming on, Steve. Really do appreciate it. The floor is yours for 20, 30 seconds or so. If you want to give yourself a plug, let people know where they can find you and your pod, and then we will wrap up.
Brilliant. So I co-host the Orient Outlook podcast with my good friend Paul Levy. We can be found on all social media platforms: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky. New episodes every Sunday come out around 10 p.m. Available on SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, anywhere you get your podcasts, YouTube. So give us a listen, give us a follow. Up the O's, and thanks for having me on, Ben. Best of luck for the season. There's always, like I said, there's going to be a team on there who defy expectations, and if it's not Orient, I've got no problem with it being Lincoln City this season. So best of luck for the rest of the season, buddy.
Very kind of you to say so, mate. And yeah, appreciate you coming on. We'll speak to you again later on in the year, no doubt. And until next time, up the Imps.